Now, everybody knows that Glenn Beck's been run off TV. He's leaving Fox News. But he claims that it's totally okay because he's going to go back to his radio empire. Well, here's the problem with that. His radio career is also crumbling. Glenn's been kicked off the air in 9 cities since January. And in New York, they didn't even beat around the bush when asked why. They said, quote, the reason is ratings. Somewhat to our surprise, the show wasn't getting what we wanted. And look, getting kicked off the air in New York, Philadelphia, and some of those other cities is devastating in radio, especially New York. But Beck's not the only right-winger on the decline either. Boston's WTKK canceled crazy conservative Jay Severin just last month. He'd been suspended in 2009 over some truly disgusting racial slurs, including calling Mexicans primitives, leeches, and exporters of women with mustaches and venereal diseases. But it was his comments about sleeping with interns that got him the boot for good, when he said, quote, I slept with virtually every young college girl I hired to be an intern or an employee. All I was a young man who was the boss, and I did it because I could. But look, it wasn't just his vile comments that did this. It was his declining ratings because they didn't fire him when he said the thing about Mexicans and all the terrible other things he said. But now that the ratings are going down, all of a sudden he's fired. And even the king of right-wing radio hasn't been immune to this ratings decline. Rush Limbaugh's numbers are down in the coveted 25 to 54 age group. Since 2005, he's fallen from 6th to 12th in Charlotte, North Carolina. From 4th to 8th in Portland, Oregon, and he's seen a similar decline in San Francisco as well. And Seattle's KVI, the pioneering station that went from an all-talk and all-conservative format back in '94, went back to music programming late last year. They were the first ones out there doing conservative talk. Now the whole station is gone. They're doing music instead. And it's not looking good for any of these right-wing airwaves. Guys, here's what former head of programming for Clear Channel had to say about it all. He said, quote, some people don't want to be engaged at that loud, angry level, that hard right or left ideological approach where it's my way or the highway. Look, nobody was talking about how great liberals are doing on radio before anyway, but everybody was talking about it, including Gabe Hobbs, who made that comment, and others, about how great conservative talk was. But it turns out they get the ratings, and it's not that great, and they're in a lot of trouble. You want to know why? It's not just because people are turned off by their harsh rhetoric. It's a new rating system in radio. It used to be diaries where you would write down who you liked and pretended you listened to them. It was a terrible system of getting ratings. And people would say, I don't know, I like Rush Limbaugh. And they write Rush Limbaugh even though they didn't listen to him. Now they've got people meters, which we'll explain in a second. It's a much more accurate way of judging it. And it turns out it's been a lie all along. They were never that popular in the first place. And now when you find the real ratings, they're in a world of trouble. All right, now let me bring an expert here. He's a pioneer in the radio industry. He's a talk radio consultant, Holland Cook. Holland, great to have you here.
Hey, Shank, thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Holland, I've known you a long time, in and out of the radio business myself. I always thought that the ratings in radio were a fraud, to be honest with you. Being in the business, whether my ratings were up, down, in the middle, I thought, really? They're going to write down people's names and that's how you're going to figure it out? Tell us about the people meters. Is that making a big difference here, you think?
I'm going to try and do the nerd to English dictionary, so stop me if I go all techie nerdy on you. But I think you summed it up well just a moment ago. Previously, it was like a ballot. It was like a survey, a popularity contest, where what we now know from the meter data happens is that people were over-reporting their favorite stations and their favorite shows, and they were under-reporting or not remembering the stations they listened to less. It was a memory test after the fact. This new people meter is a little iPod-looking device that you wear, and it listens to what you're listening to. So we're getting our first glimpse of actual listening data. And what we're learning, for instance, you mentioned Rush Limbaugh. One of the dirty little secrets that has fallen out of some of this research is that it's really a 2-hour show. His third hour has never kept pace with the first 2, but they've got 3 hours worth of commercials to sell.
So, Holland, are they less popular now, you think? Or were they full of it all along, and once we got accurate ratings, we're like, whoa, it turns out nobody's listening to them? And I wouldn't say nobody, that's not fair, but a lot less than we suspected.
No. Yeah, it's a little of both. And let's make an important distinction. Radio is in good shape. In the last several years, notwithstanding iPhone and Pandora and all the other things we can listen to, actual AM/FM listening is up. 93.5% of all Americans aged 12 and older listen to radio every week, some 242 million people. So AM/FM radio is still good. What seems to be flatlining is this I'm right, you're wrong, Democrats bad, Republicans good, I talk, you listen radio. And I think it'll always be a reliable 5-share act, to use the industry lingo. But what that means is that 95% of listeners are interested in something else. Look what we've seen in recent years with the surging popularity of public radio, whose listeners, many of them baby boomers disenchanted with the schlock on commercial radio, have fled there because they figure they're getting it straight.
Right. Holland, we really appreciate your expertise tonight. And by the way, the one other thing that the audience should know is that for the conservative talk radio, above 65 is where most of their audience is. And that's not a good sign for them either.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
And Rush Limbaugh, frankly, Rush is turning 60, so there you go.